Hello and welcome. Wherever you are in the world, we are glad you've chosen to spend time with us today. We're here to discuss the transformative impact of creative expression. Creativity is intrinsic to our humanity, and as humanity struggles seemingly more every day, we're here to make sure we harness our creativity in truly impactful ways. We're joined by Jessica Hudson, Executive Director of the Jian Mehta Hope Foundation and Director of Transformative Impact with the Foresight Lab. We're joined also by Sean Mambwere of the MNM Dance Factory in Borrowdale, Harare, Zimbabwe. And we have Edward Quevedo, Director of Regenerative Design and Head of Practice at the Foresight Lab. We're going to start with Jessica and the story of Jian.
Thank you, Kevin. So when I think of Jian, there's two things that come to my mind, which is transformation and love, and of course, hope. I think transformation because he kind of grew up a little bit like a punk, I would say. And he had his struggles, and he had this radical transformation at a pretty young age, I would say. I think it was probably around 18 when he went off to school. That transformation continued and grew as he was diagnosed with leukemia in 2016. That a big part of that transformation was his faith. So that he went from just being a little bit lost and not knowing what direction, and just kind of a bit of his identity, I would say, through getting to know God and having his hope in God and his faith. And that was the transformation that I got to see firsthand. And as he went through his battle with cancer, I was able to see how that love and hope bled into every aspect of his life. And I think during his troubled stages in life, art was an outlet for him. So he was a musician. And while he was in the hospital battling with cancer, he was able to use that tool and channel the situation that he was in, which brought him hope and a better quality in what his situation was. So for me, and also the love that he had for, of course, God first and his family and friends, but for just people. And he wanted his music to be the tool to share that love to people. So that's something that Jian and I both share, is just that humanitarian heart. And when he passed in 2018, it was like no question for me. Like that fire just jumped straight on me, and I knew what I had to do, and I wanted his legacy to carry on with that hope and love and the transformation that he had with his art as being a musician, and to share that to the world. And that's a little bit about Jian.
Jessica, that is both lovely and moving. Thank you for sharing that with us. Is there anything you want to add before we go on to talk about how you and Sean came together?
No, I'd love to talk about that.
Okay.
So Jian was actually in Berlin, Germany, at the time he was diagnosed. And he had met, it was a very random divine appointment that he sat on a train and met Pastor Joshua. and they got to know each other. It was literally just weeks before he got diagnosed and had to leave. And that meeting was so profound, I think, that Pastor Joshua wanted to stay in contact with Jian. And he was a huge inspiration to Jian and Hope as well during his time of battling. And he encouraged Jian to continue with his music. And after Jian had passed, he, during his time of battling cancer as well, he created this full-blown music studio in his bedroom. It was kind of crazy, one of those like prodigy type of people, I guess. And so he recorded 7 songs, and he just had this whole production going on. So as the foundation became more established, we decided one of the things we wanted to do was ship all of Jian's equipment to Berlin, where Pastor Joshua then, because he has, I think now it's called Sound of Hope, but they're now facilitating workshops and things for youth that don't have access to recording equipment. And so that's the relationship that the foundation has now with Pastor Joshua. And he had introduced me to Sean. And as soon as I heard Sean's story and what he's doing in Zimbabwe, I immediately was like, all right, we gotta work together some way, somehow. And that was the introduction to Sean that I'm very grateful for.
Yay. And Sean, do you want to pick up that story?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think just to track back a little bit, thank you, Jessica, for again refreshing my mind. I think every time I hear that story, it breaks my heart so much. So thank you again for sharing that. There's a friend of mine. Her name is Sarah Dilling. She's from Berlin, Germany. So she moved to my country of Zimbabwe to do some work in remote areas. And when she came, she heard about the work that I was doing. And then she said, I would like you to meet Pastor Joshua. I'm like, oh, okay, that's fantastic. Let's do that. And my first meeting with Pastor Joshua, I kid you not, it was amazing. There was such a warmth and a sense of endearment that he was talking to someone. It felt as if he was talking to someone that he knew for a long time, even though it was the first time. And when we started talking and started sharing about some of the projects that Jessica just mentioned that he was doing, it aligned with the work that I was doing as well. And it resonated with him to such a point where he was like, you know what, I think I would love for you to meet Jessica, because what you are doing and the heart and passion and the vision that Jessica has, you guys would definitely click, and you guys would definitely get to a place where this can be something that is big and can impact the world. And upon meeting Jessica, and first meeting, again, it was absolutely amazing for me, because I'll just give you a bit of context. I live in a country where things are not easy, right? I'm sure it's true for every other country, but particularly for mine, it's extra difficult, if I can use that word. So to have people who take their time to listen and to understand what you're about and what you're doing is big for someone like me, because it shows that they are looking beyond themselves and they really want to understand what you're doing and see how they can come along and help build that to something that is big. And that was the experience I had with Jessica. And knowing Jian's story as she shared it with me, and knowing that there are people that have love and care and who always want to go the extra mile to do stuff, it was powerful for me. So I've known Jessica for probably over a year. Is that so? I think so.
Yeah.
A year. And it's been a back and forth of not just knowing and sharing stories, but also working together and being trained in it. And it's such amazing the amount that I've learned from her, and also just hearing the heart. And now when I heard the music from Jian's album, you could definitely hear the hope. You could definitely hear the passion. You could definitely hear the love that he had, and it just left me speechless. And I'm a year later, here I am, and we are talking about different things, dreaming bigger, and it's in a way through the ethos of the foundation ignited this vision that wants to go out and do stuff, right? That is bigger than the circumstances that surround me in my country. And I'm just grateful. And it's been an amazing experience and journey.
It's so delightful to hear this story. Jessica, you and Sean are now side by side on screen, despite the fact that you're, 12,000 miles apart from each other. The notion that connection is coming into action, I think that is meaningful to both of you. Just, can you say a little bit about that?
Yeah. So part of what the foundation does is partner with other organizations such as Sean's and bring awareness, support, and education to that. And once I heard, which I think Sean can explain more to what it is that M&M Factory does, the foundation is looking to how we can support Sean and his work and his efforts.
Yeah. So just to piggyback on that, so the work that I do here through the dance studio, it's split into 4 aspects or 4 parts. The first part is I'm heavily involved with the local schools here, and I get into the schools and then I teach dance. But on top of teaching dance, it's also getting kids to think beyond the craft and also work on their character. Because my vision and my belief is, yes, talent can get you to the top, but what keeps you at the top is your character. So you might as well want to focus on your character if you want your craft to do as much as you expect it to do. So, and if you can get to share that with kids from a young age, and as they grow, they'll know that sustenance is not necessarily in the talent, but it's in robust character that sustains talent. So that's one aspect of the work that I do here. The second one would be, I come from a high density community. And it took one person to come into my community and present opportunities for me. And fast forward 17 years, I have won awards, I've toured countries, I'm heavily involved in schools. I'm, let me say, out of a lack of a better phrase, an influential voice in the creative space. And every time when I think back, it took one person to look beyond my background, to look beyond my geographical location, to look beyond my socioeconomic status, and say there's hidden talent in this community. So let me go there and present the opportunity. And now I'm on this other side where people have access to a lot of things, but my heart still is a burden that how much more talent is hidden where in places like mine, where I come from, and what kind of programs and spaces and environments can I create such that that talent can still be brought to the light and people can see it. Because my belief is it's everyone's right to have access to opportunities. Some of those opportunities, that's a different subject altogether. But access to opportunities is everyone's right to have, regardless of where you come from. So I do a lot of pro bono work in communities like mine because you have to change mindsets and different things in those communities. So that's the second aspect. The third aspect is to do with the craft itself. I'm a dancer. I didn't go to school. I'm self-taught. I'll just wake up and see other dance groups dancing, and I'm like, oh, I want to learn that. Particularly because the way I grew up, I was told that, hey, you know what, Sean, you either have to be a doctor, a lawyer, or a pilot. Anything outside of these three, it's not worth your time. You will not be able to put food on the table, let alone take care of the family or extended family. So growing up in such an environment, it somehow put a gray cloud on other things that I was gifted in, right? So now, starting dancing late in my age, I can only imagine if I started earlier, I can only imagine what I could have achieved if the environment was created for me to explore what I'm good at and to just spread my wings and see how far I can go. And now this is, again, the burden that I have. I want to change that mindset and that paradigm and say, okay, parents, you are the gatekeepers for these kids. Allow them to explore, allow them to venture into different avenues, and you never know the kind of gifting that they have. So that looks like competitions and workshops and seminars and camps. The kids come and then we see what talent they have. But because I didn't go to school, I want to link those kids to schools where they can be trained properly, where they can be equipped properly, where they can be built up in the way that the gift itself requires so that they can do amazing work, not only in my country, but also in the rest of the world. So that's more like this, the third aspect of the work that I'm doing. And then the final one, but it's not exhaustive. There are many minute ones, but the final big one is there are a lot of stories that people have that don't get to see the light of day, particularly because when people think about these people, they are, we call them the forgotten ones. So we just came out of COVID, right? And there are people that were living like with HIV and AIDS that had issues that were made worse by the pandemic itself. Now we are post-COVID, but they were still affected in ways. And people are moving on with their lives. But why not take time to look at these people and share their stories? Because what they went through is something that can learn from, and they've been affected greatly. So the other aspect, the fourth one that I'm explaining now, is wanting to major on stories that are not widely researched, that come from communities that people do not even think about going to. Saying, okay, we're going to tell your story. We're going to champion your story so that people can be aware that there are people like you who are existing and who are living. And you also deserve the attention and the focus that everyone else is getting. And in that way, dialogue can start to bring about solutions that can help them. Dialogue can start to bring about programs that can equip them. Dialogue can start to establish institutions and infrastructure that can help these people move on and be who they can be in the world. So those are the four aspects of the work that I do here, in addition to just mentoring talented kids who have gone on to do amazing things in different countries like China, Hungary, Germany, South Africa, Malawi. All of these things, it's part of the vision that I have. That is, if opportunities are presented to everyone, regardless of where they are, there's such a rich talent in all those, and it needs to come to the surface. And if there's a part I will scale off those to make sure that that opportunity is presented to them.
I am just meeting Sean for the first time, and I am inspired and delighted to know you, Sean. And Jessica, if you can, sort of bring this back to your meeting, your connection, your realizing that Jian would be, right there with you and making sure that this transcendence, this uplift is finding its way in the world. Let's can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, thank you. And Sean, thanks so much for sharing all of that. I think, and what Sean was explaining, I hope everyone else can see the shifting of the mindset that he talked about, and which is that transformational piece, and the bringing community together through the arts and bringing opportunity to people who might not have it. That's really at the core and the heart of the foundation, with the artistic expression, creative expression, and to unlock the power that has, because I do believe that creative expression does have power. It kind of roots into the core of our heart, allows healing and that shifting of the mindset and the transformational piece to really come alive and speak for itself. So, and partnering with Sean, that's how, the foundation seeks to partner with others like Sean all over the world to bring that opportunity and to support, again, through education and awareness. And so it's really, I feel a privilege to be working with Sean and to see how far we can go, and how we can help others do the same through the work that the foundation does.
Y'all are awesome. Go ahead, Sean. Go ahead.
Oh my goodness. So again, it's been over a year. So in my mind, there's so many ideas. There's so many thoughts. And there's so many things that I want to explore. And all these ideas are put down. But my mind is not able to refine them in such a way that if I give someone like Ed or you, Kevin, to read on it and to read it, you'll be able to capture it the way that it ought to be captured, and you'll be able to feel what I would want you to feel. And just the interaction that I've had with Jessica and the ethos of the foundation, it's been amazing for me just to talk through these ideas, and then she refines them in such a way that I'm like, yeah, that's what I wanted to say, but I did not say it the way that you were saying it, or that's what I was pushing for. And I think what I really appreciate about the foundation in the way that it helped me experience this is there's the sense of ownership. It's not like she's there and I'm here. It's like I'm here to walk with you. Let's fine tune this. Let's see how this can be much more clearer, so that the vision is spelled out in black and white, and anyone who picks it up can understand. But at the same time, we will put a team and equip you so that it goes to the next level where it's supposed to go to. So that's just a tidbit. I mean, there's more to say, but again, as she was talking now, that just jumped out at me. Like, I'm a different person today because of the time that I've spent and just seeing all these values and principles being outworked through the foundation. And I'm deeply grateful. I really, really am.
I have a note here that we should talk just a little more about the work that is emerging in Berlin, but I do want to ask before we get on to that, what is your speciality, Sean? What is your type of dance that you are most happy with?
It's hip hop dancing. That's my best port of call. And then Afro. But now that you brought that, Kevin, I might intrigue your mind and just say that I leaped for joy when I learned that you help organize and co-host a hip hop dance competition in San Francisco. My sources tell me, reliable sources that I will not disclose at this point. And I think for me that is huge, because knowing that you are a huge advocate of everything to do with environment and climate. And then you come across to this other spectrum where you are heavily involved in the creative space. I'm honored to be in your presence. I really am. Because
we are going to talk hip hop extensively and have a lot of fun doing that. And especially since the hip hop community here in San Francisco is very vibrant, and often it's about the art of hip hop, okay, don't get me started. What I want to do now is disappear from this screen, and Sean and Jessica, tell us a little bit about what's going on in Germany, and then we'll keep going.
Okay. So Germany, I believe it was 2020 that we were able to actually get the equipment over, and it was some time. And now it's just been this year that they've been able to start having workshops using the equipment. And these workshops are catering more to the youth and refugees in this neighborhood. So I'm just starting to learn more about the types of workshops that they're doing, again, because they've just been able to kind of really launch the studio and what they're doing. And that just to highlight again what the foundation, our focus is youth and women that have been, through exploitation or, other atrocities. And that also shows how what Sean's doing and how that aligns, just bringing the opportunity again to where there may not be.
I think the power that art has, because I have been to Germany a couple of times, and it's amazing just to see how our creativity just leaps over other things that any other profession would not necessarily leap over. Like if I was to go there with being, a scientist or something, I have to learn the language, right? I have to learn German. I have to learn. But if as a creative, I just get there and then I dance, and then afterwards I'll be like, introduce myself. Oh, my name is Sean, and this and this and this and this. And I remember speaking again to Jessica and Pastor Joshua, and him just sharing about the kind of transformative impact that the projects they are doing is having, and seeing lives being changed. I mean, it's one thing to just be given an opportunity to express yourself. It's another thing that opportunity changes people in such a way that they come in as this person and then they go out totally renewed, totally transformed, totally like a whole new person. So and that is using the creative power of art, whether it's music or it's dance or it's spoken word or poetry or visual imaging. So that's what I wanted to add, that the projects themselves, you could feel that they are doing even a deeper work that goes beyond exploring everything through the craft itself. And it's amazing.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, we've accomplished our goal of inspiring and uplifting me. I thank you for sharing this with me, and I want to also bring in Ed Quevedo, because he, in many ways, has brought us all together to talk about this and explore the things that other people can take away. So, Ed, are you ready to give us a little bit of something about how this is going to emerge in a big way in the world?
Thanks, Kevin. And thank you for so graciously hosting us. And thank you, Jessica and wonderful Sean, for your inspiring words. I'm also in the Inspiration Club. Kevin, I'd like to start by saying that at this point, I'm supposing that our viewers and listeners are curious about how they can get involved. So before I say anything else, and I know we'll talk about this at the end, The Jian Mehta Hope Foundation has a website that is lovely, jianmehtahope.org, JIANMEHTAHOPE.org. And on that page, you will soon see information about our event on 5th August, about which more in a bit. And there's an opportunity to support the work of the foundation. And I want to start with that, what it is to support a foundation, because the power and potency of the idea that Jess had, the expression of that idea through transformatively gifted and selfless artists like Sean, and in the fullness of time, thousands of others that this foundation will catalyze is important. But I think it's important to talk briefly about the human experience, because Sean was referencing something about there's so much coming up in his heart that he wants to say. And a creative is that way. I'm privileged to be surrounded by creatives in our work. But in human life today in the world, we are confused by stuff coming at us at such a pace, from media to the events of our life to the events of the greater world, that it's rare when we have the time to stop and really be human. And creativity, as Sean and Jess are reminding us and our viewers so beautifully, gives us a chance to stop and be human. And that human experience creates a moment of pause and inevitable connection. And that connection is powerful. And that connection gives rise then to the opportunity to act. And it's a natural human impulse as it lives in Jessica's wonderful beating heart. The love for her brother, the impulse to act leads to the question in the mind, how should I conduct myself? And Jian chose to conduct himself once he came into who he was through the transformation that Jessica talked about as a gift to the world. That was a choice he made. We all can make this choice to either be participants in the story of the world and our own personal movie, or to be activists, to be moved as agents. And then, of course, we come to the last, agents for what? Agents in this case for love, goodness, may I say justice, because the people who are going to be uplifted, given voice and sovereignty, given dignity, we hope millions of them, Kevin, over the next 50 to 100 years that this foundation lives, whose names we'll never know, they will be the beneficiaries and be touched by the love that shone from Jian's heart over his all too short life. But on the other hand, he has an eternal life now, and he's hopefully, well, he's probably chuckling with his beautiful way of being. And maybe, I'm sure he's saying loving things to his sister, but I hope he's saying about people like Sean and Kevin, and I'm such a bit player here, but maybe, nice work. So I just want us to think about that reality, because what Jessica embodies, what John embodied, Kevin, is unconditional love that asks nothing in return. And we don't talk about this enough. As unconditional love says, I give because I'm human, and whatever you need, from the smallest to the biggest thing, I give with nothing in return. So let's think about hope, which is kind of the opposite gesture. Hope says everything is possible, no matter what your conditions, no matter how dire, urgent, sad, or apparently disabling. Hope lives in all of us, and it's one of the greatest gifts we can give, but hope is activated by love. So there's a seed here of human interaction that every parent listening, every cousin, every activist, every human listening can ask themselves, how do I relate to the good I do in the world? And this is one of the transformative, catalytic, unique characteristics of Jessica's idea, to reacquaint people, Kevin, with how they give. Because a lot of people donate almost by mechanism. I sign up for KQED or another public television station, or I sign up to be part of an aid group in Africa, and my monthly, distribution goes, and I forget about it, and I go on with my life. And that's all beautiful and wonderful and essential. And through such things does real transformation happen. But to be an active part, to feel your contribution daily. This is what the Jian Mehta Hope Foundation, we think, can and will do over the next 50 to 100 years of its life. And Kevin, you know, Foresight Lab, it says Foresight, look out. And when you instantiate well-being in the world the way that Jessica and her brother wanted to and will through this, and uplifting gorgeous humans like Sean and their work, which in turn touches that catalytic power, will give the people who, well, I'll use the word donate, but really are in communion with us, the chance to every day through our website in future, see the work, feel the work, be actively engaged, be thought partners with us. And through that, make more meaningful, deep and permanent the donative gesture and impulse that all good people have. And the second part of it is something Sean alluded to, and that I know Jessica works every day in ways that would need 3 hours to talk about the good that Jessica does in the world, with no expectation other than that she will touch good people in really meaningful ways. We need, Kevin, as you know, as a climate activist, as Jessica knows, as an actor for justice in the world, Sean, as you know, as someone who sees the arts as something that could be much more a part of every nation's daily bread, new institutions of civil society that can help us dig us out of all of these existential threats. Because if we stand up new institutions that don't exist today, and I'll give you an example in a minute, Kevin, and if we fundamentally shift the heart, soul, spirit, and sinew of existing institutions, we have a chance to survive as a species on this beautiful planet and to be in communion with her and her eternality and the divine forces that we often forget in our daily lives and get lost in because there's so much stuff coming at us that we never have a chance, like Sean said, to stop and let our creativity live. We are currently in conversations with the African Union about standing up a new civil society in Zimbabwe that is needed because of the unfortunate history of that country, because of an election that happened in 1980. And I won't say anything more about that because we want to be about hope and happiness and light. We're talking about trying to instantiate over the next years, Kevin, in Zimbabwe, a ministry of hope whose work will be to inspire hope in its people. And just think for a minute about the radically disruptive effect if just 5 countries in Africa, because that's the African Union's idea, stand up a ministry of hope. And if Canada or Argentina or Papua New Guinea grabs that and reinstantiates it, imagine the tsunami of goodness, love, hope that will flow across the world and how it will change us. And this is what the Jian Mehta Hope Foundation can do, will do, if it's in the heart of its founder, because at the Foresight Lab, I say small bit players to support and uplift this role. And this is unique in the world of global culture transformation. These 2 gestures are unique and they will live because Xi'an lived, and he should never be forgotten.
I feel the call to action is clear, and I'm thinking, you know, Ed, is it time to let the 3 of you have at it and discuss what that means for all of you, especially shaped by what we've talked about in the last 20 minutes? And I'm going to be listening here, and I'll jump in if needed. But let's talk about what we've heard here, especially the last few moments of what Ed is talking about. Sean, I've got to think that this must gladden your heart to think that 2 years, 10 years, 20 years from now, this could be seen as a turning point.
Absolutely. One thing that I appreciate about that kind of foresight is almost like if someone can write songs about the sun, right? It's warm. It gladdens the heart. If you're cold, you feel warm. But someone else can write songs about what that same sun is allowing you to see. And this ministry of hope, it's almost like it's sitting on top of the globe and saying, the sun is allowing me to see that there's need here. Hope is dying. We need to bring it back. The equipping that is needed here, strengthening that is needed here. And especially in a world where hope is quickly dying and visions and dreams are quickly dying, and Ministry of Hope is coming at a very timely, pivotal time in our lives where hope is needed. So yeah, Kevin, it does get in my heart that we are not just talking about someone who's taking what the sun is doing, but also seeing what the sun is showing them. That these are the areas we can focus on. So let's set foot, all hands on deck, and let's bring about the necessary change and make sure that hope is not a word, but it's something that all these areas are rooted in. That hope defines everything that they end up doing. So yeah, it does gladden my heart. Absolutely.
All right. Jessica, in many ways, we're all here because you exist and because Jian existed and is here now with us. But tell us a little bit about what you're taking away from these last minutes.
I think first is gratitude for all of you and all of the listeners, because it's not just me, it takes everybody. And I'm so grateful for those who take the time to listen, to come alongside and be a helping hand and get involved. So definitely full of gratitude right now. And yeah, I think a ministry of hope is very hopeful and something that the world needs. I will say, I completely with an alignment with Sean, and that, that there is a lack, and it almost seems a lot of, there's a lot of hopelessness, unfortunately, in the world. So there is that need. And I will say that I think behind hope is love, and that's like at the root for me. So I want to be mindful of not having false hope. And when I'm thinking of hope, I'm thinking of like a real hope that has love behind it, that, is not going to be broken. And so whatever that I would choose to work in with would be that, a hope that has love behind it, and it's not false, and it's real and it's true. And that's what I would like to share and bring to others. And that's what the foundation seeks to do because of my brother and because of all of you.
Ed?
Thanks, Kevin. I am I'm not easily inspired because I've had a certain path, but it never ceases to amaze me when I encounter inspiration and how it shows up. And I think there's a couple of points that, Jess, you might close us out with. It's appropriate that you have the semi-last word, because Kevin is such a gracious host. I'm sure he'll help us finish this up. But I just want to say again to the listeners and the viewers, thank you, to repeat what Jessica said. Wherever you find this, whether you're sitting on a beach with your cell phone or sitting at home with your family or listening in the car, take a minute and breathe into love and how you express love in your own life. And think about the connection between love and hope. And I'll give you a way to think about that before I ask Jessica to think about a couple of things, because it's really simple. Kevin, I've told you this before. I said it from the stage when you and I first met. I can do two things in this world. I can parent and I can spot talent. And the love of a parent sees in his child endless possibility when he looks down into her huge green eyes, in this case, my youngest, Samantha. And immediately your heart runs ahead to 20 years and 40 years and 60 years. Not that you want to miss a minute, but you want her hopeful eyes looking to you for guidance and goodness every day feeling like you can't possibly be good enough to the task, but you wake up every day as a parent, wherever you're sitting, dear listener, think about that impulse and participate, if only in spirit, by putting an intention, that goodness in your life. Let the hope that Jessica is expressing touch your life just by try to be, as you always do, I'm sure, dear listener, a better person every day. That's part of the power here. But if you're moved to be a part of the movement, join us, talk with us, come to the website, jianmehtahope.org, and be a part of our launch event in Los Angeles on the 5th of August, about which you can see more on our website. I'll just end by asking Jessica 2 questions. The listeners might at this time be wondering about 2 things. Jessica, why artistic expression? And why hope as a core gesture for the foundation?
Well, it was mentioned, and as we were all speaking, creative expression, because of the power that creative expression has, and where I believe creative expression comes from, which is the heart, and our creator, who's so it kind of brings us back to our core in that sense, and allows us to learn again how to share and express ourselves from that point. And I think that's a huge part. And that brings in the transformational piece of understanding ourselves maybe a little bit better and healing, and coming from a point of healing that we then can, as we express ourselves out through whatever expression that may be, is bringing that out into the world from like a healed heart, and that's being shared then to the world to experience, and how they would experience it. Without hope, what do you have? I mean, Jian, he was able to do what he did because of the hope he had for what was set in front of him, which is where he is now. So, we all need a little hope. And I will just say, for the one last call to action would just be, come join us in LA. You'll be able to experience Sean dancing, and you'll get an opportunity to hear Jian's launch to his album of the 7 songs he completed while he was battling cancer nonetheless. So would love to see you all there.
Wow. So I want to say hope brings itself more hope. And as I listen to you, I feel myself, and I think of myself as a pretty hopeful person, thinking, oh, there really is hope. And it really is going to get bigger and bigger until we, well, I don't know, until we can't hope anymore. And that's never, right? All right. I don't know what to do except to say, wrapped in around this broadcast, wherever you're viewing it, is information about how to get involved with the Jian Mehta Hope Foundation. And there's contact information for Jessica, Sean, and Ed, in case you want to reach out to them and say thank you. And kids, y'all are awesome. Can you just say thank you very much, world, for making me awesome? All right, we'll wrap it up there. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.